Dave here, how are you? Today is the 24th of November 2019, Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Now, it's not really that time because I'm doing this as a pre-recording. I had a lot of positive response here from last week's video. It's gone crazy. It's had about 8,000 views, which for a live show is unheard of. So maybe we're onto something here, and depending on how things happen with the NBN, we might stick with this format for a while and see how it goes. Regarding the NBN, I told everyone it would be ready by the 29th. Well, I had an email and it's not going to be for another 3 months. Now, why am I surprised? I thought it would be pretty good because they had actually given me a date, and all of the retail providers had been swamping me with buy the NBN through us. That's the best way to go. And I actually went with one of them in the end, and then I got this letter saying, yeah, sucko, buddy. It's not going to happen till the end of February, and even then, I bet you it won't happen. Now, I don't know whether the bushfires had anything to do with this. Goodness only knows. Maybe I'm being a bit cynical. Anyway, let's have a look at what's going to be on the show. I hope you've had a great week, and I have. I've been absolutely under the pump getting orders out. But anyway, let's get into what the show's about today. Let me have a look in full HD. If you're enjoying it, give me a thumbs up. Make some comments in the description box at the bottom. This show will be broadcast as a premiere as well. So if you get to watch it when it's first released, you can join in a chat session. That will disappear after the show finishes, but then that's when you put comments down the bottom. Have I waffled on enough? Possibly. All right, this week on the show, a timber oil application tip. Now, I've been mucking around with oiling different surfaces, and at the moment I'm looking at a new surface and a new form of Stanton bench. It had to come into it, didn't it? And I'm looking at possibly oiling prior to putting it over the machine and seeing if that's going to be of any benefit. We'll see. So we're going to have a look at that, and we'll wait for that. Yeah, we'll do that. CNC, we mentioned the CNC. A look around my Spoilboard. Now, I know you're all just wetting yourself with excitement over having a look at my Spoilboard, but it's got a couple of little things there that I haven't really shown anyone before. And you may be interested if you have a machine like this one that I've got. It's an Avid. Well, you may be interested to copy what I've done. Let me see. The solar panels, a few weeks on. How are they performing? Well, you know what I'm like. I'm obsessive with anything that I do. And I've been running a spreadsheet on production and costs and savings and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to show you a snippet of 3 weeks. I'm going through November. So this one has done up to the 21st of November, I think it is. And I'll show you the snippet of how it's doing with the fires, overcast, really hot. We've had temperatures around 37, 38 degrees Celsius. All of the things that it's been exposed to. It hasn't been exposed to hail yet. That's another story. All right, what else we got? What else we got? Support the channel through Patreon and Amazon, links below. And thank you so much to everyone who's been doing that last week after the last week's show. It really does mean a lot. Motivates me to keep going and doing this. Maybe you're thinking, well, if I don't support you, maybe you'll stop doing this thing. Well, it's your call. You can watch or not watch, whatever you want to do. All right. First thing is I'm going to have a look at a quick tip on the Stanton bench, getting it ready for oiling other things. Now, you may not be aware of this, but I'm going to go over to CalCam and aiming down. Now, at the moment, the bench is the right way up, but you'll notice that all the legs are on the top. I've put all the legs in there. Now, why have I done that? I'll show you. Here we go. I'm going to put the last leg in. I don't know if you're aware that you can put all the legs in the underside. And then, because I don't want to get any oil on this side, so I'm going to spin her over. There we go. And I have one surface that has got these dogs. I threw some of John's small dogs in. The reason being, I'm going to use this side with his little caps These things are like a painting cap or a painting pyramid, whatever you want to call them, and they will go straight on to each dog. Now, why am I doing that? Why didn't I just put it there? Well, they'll slide around, they might tip over. So if I put them there, it's going to be fine. Now, on here, I'm going to put, I'll switch the cameras over again first, and I'll go over here. I'm going to grab the board that I've already put 2 coats of oil on, and I'll explain to you why I'm doing a few different things here. Switch her over to the other camera again, back to CarlCam, which is there. So I have this board that's got 2 coats of Liberon finishing oil. Now, it doesn't have to be Liberon, it can be anyone's oil, but as I say, this is the one that I'm using because I had it. And I'm using 40 steel wool. Now, I was also playing around with some 2000 Platen. Now, this stuff is an abrasive that's designed possibly for the automotive industry, but it's a Festool product. Have a look. I've got the 1000, 2000 and 4000, and I'm very, very happy with them. So I use this as a sanding pad when I'm getting right up. I can use it by hand or I can put it on the machine when I'm getting right up there for high degrees of finish. Now, these guys recommend going a fair way, I think even up to 1500. Obviously, they say the finer the grit, the finer the finish is going to be. Now, why am I telling you all this? On this one, I have not sanded it at all. This is just totally, let's see if I can go the other camera if it's going to pick me up on it. Yeah, let's stick with this camera for a second. So on this board, no finish. Oh, sorry, no sanding. It's come out from the factory directly out of a drum sander as part of their process. And I thought it might be interesting to give it a rub down with some 40 steel wool before I even put any of the oil on and see if it was going to come up all right. Now, I've put 2 coats on and I'm still feeling a little bit rough here. We'll go to the other camera again. Maybe I should just stick there. There we go. It's a bit rough here. I've hit this one with the steel wool and it's nice and smooth. So now Vicky cringes every time I pull steel wool off this because she thinks I'm going to cut myself. Well, I'm not. So I'll pop that over there. Again, no affiliation with this mob. It's just what I use. You see it's starting to get a little shiny here. It's feeling pretty good. Now, why am I talking about this instead of using expensive machines and things? Well, a lot of people don't have those machines, and I understand that. So this is an option that if you don't have sanders or if you don't have specialized sanding pads, it's quicker. It's a lot quicker with the sanding pads than this, but this does the job. And there's another little tip I'm going to give you as well. Don't use a paper towel. If you're going to apply the finish without also going along the end, don't be tempted to do this. Go with the grain and just go over the end a little bit. That's good. So what was I saying? Oh, that's right. I was saying that if you haven't got all that gear, that's fine. You can still get a good result, but use microfiber as a applicator. Where are we? I'm going to dust it off with just a cotton rag, because I don't want any of the steel wool that breaks down left on here. There's a thing called a tack cloth, T-A-C-K, C-L-O-T-H, and it is brilliant for doing that kind of job. That feels pretty good. A little bit rough there still. It's a real different world not having to answer to people while I'm doing this. I'm not saying that I didn't like doing that, but it makes it easy for me to just get on with the job. And some people have been saying, Dave, for goodness sake, just get on with the job. That feels pretty good. I'm going to turn the board upside down and do the other side as well. This side, I'm going to hit it with this stuff. And that's a whole lot quicker. This has had 2 coats. And what I'm feeling when I'm sanding now is these are the fibers that stick up. When you put a coat on something, that's the reason you do a sand in between coats, a light sand between coats, is to knock the tops of the fibers off. When you come back here, come back, and transition. So when you, let's say this is the surface that I've just painted, all the little fibers stick up and they get caught when the product sets. This oil will actually set, and they're all sticking up in the air. Now they're going to give you capillary action to absorb moisture back down into the board. Now it's no good. That's why we're putting a finish on, to stop any moisture change in the board if possible, as well as also protecting it, stopping stains getting in there from other things other than water. But they say you can use this finishing oil for kitchen bench tops. So 3 coats. I've put 2 coats on already, and this is a whole lot quicker than steel wool, but the steel wool will still do it for you. A little bit more there. Now I did mention, I'm a little bit erratic today, I did mention that if you were to use paper towel, you're going to end up with the towel breaking down. That's why it's a good idea to use something like this stuff, these things, microfiber cloth. Now don't use a whole one. Like, this wasn't expensive to buy, you know, maybe $5 or $6, something like that. Don't use a whole one, because you're just going to throw it away. Unless, of course, you've got white spirits and you want to go through the rigmarole of cleaning it. Just cut it up. I cut it into quarters. Sharp scissors. Now you'll notice, doing this, there's going to be some fluff. So, give it a belting. Get rid of all the fluff, because you don't want the fluff going all through your finish either. There we go. Beautiful. So now I have, and I'm going to roll it up into a ball. So all of those dead ends are going to disappear. And this is going to be my mop. They used to have mops for people when they were doing French polishing. Let's go back to the Calcam down here. All right, oil. They say to give it a good shake. Now this is exothermic. This stuff will self-combust. See down here, there's a warning. This kind of stuff, and also linseed oil, all that kind of stuff. If you leave rags just piled up on a bench after you've been using this stuff, you're asking for trouble. That will catch fire. Poof, no more workshop. I'll quickly show you. Make sure it's not wet underneath. I don't want any water on mine. I've got this old pot and I keep my rags in water inside there if I can't get outside. Otherwise, I put them out, I open it all up and leave them out in the sun to dry, and that works quite well. That's what they recommend to do. All right, here we go. This is the part everyone loves to watch. Open the lid. The first coat is the one that uses the most. The second coat, not so much. The third coat, not so much either. Here we go. Pour a little bit out. I'm not going to put the lid on it quite yet. Out of the way. Put that on. Get it out over the whole job as quickly as you can, because this stuff starts to dry and it will leave a mark as to the direction you've applied it. Now you can see I'm going right across the end there, only to get it onto the board quickly. It's very similar to a finish coat on painting. Try to get it all over to start, and then right at the end, like this, backwards and forwards. Now if I was to leave this at this stage, I would have a gloss. And I do not want a gloss, I want a satin. It's similar to spray painting. Notice how at the end I'm going past and I'm starting just in from the side. Now that looks pretty glossy at the moment because my lights above are showing it to be like that. I'm going to do the end grain next. And at the other end, there's still a heap of oil on this cloth. And one of the reasons we bunch the microfiber cloth up is that it acts as a reservoir as well. It absorbs all the oil and keeps on depositing it. You know, years ago, there was a product called Zero. Basically, it's Roundup, half-strength Roundup, I think it was. And it had a wick, it had a wand that had the product coming out the end. So you touch the wand on a weed, and it was supposed to die. It did most of the time. Doing this end as well. Now we don't leave it too long. If you leave it too long, you're going to end up trouble. Trouble, trouble, trouble. You will not manage to get rid of the gloss look. All right, I'm going to wipe it down again. There's two ways of doing this. You can either do it the way that I'm showing you, or at the end, when it's dried, you can hit it with the 4-0 steel wool, and that will give you a satin finish straight away. But what I'm doing here is I'm going to grab another of these microfiber cloths that I've cut, shake all the rubbish off it, this is a brand new cloth and I'm going to fold it up. Now we're going to pull the finish off if we can. And that's slowly reducing. There's a spot there that I missed. And another one. Good. There's one there. Now that was a matter of around, I don't know, 5 minutes that I left it on for. And you see it's nowhere near the shine now from those lights coming down from above. satin finish. It will dry satin. And the other side. There we go. Beautiful. Now these two things here, this is the one I applied with, this is the one I took it off with. I can put them in that pot that I just showed you, or I can put them outside, open the rag up, and then let it dry. But how nice is that? That looks magic. This, I love this oil. If I wanted to now, I could turn the board over and do the other side, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it alone because we're going to do some other things. Because I reckon you're probably bored with looking at all that stuff by now. And back over to there. So what do you think? That was pretty easy. It's a quick and nasty way of putting some oil on so we don't get any kind of build-up. I thought I had something else here. There it is. These are nice and cheap and quick, but they will leave rubbish on there, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to do it at all. It's going to ruin the finish. You know, maybe on the first, no, don't even use it on the first coat. All right, now how you clean your hands and stuff after all that, they recommend white spirits. Now, what's the difference between white spirits and terps? I need you to tell me in the description box down the bottom if you're not watching live. If you're watching live, put a comment in the side there in the preview and, in the premiere. If you're watching premiere, I've got to get my head around this. You can join the chat and tell me what's the difference between white spirits and metho or alcohol, or maybe white spirits doesn't have any of the additive. I don't know. You tell me. I could read the bottle, but that would take away from the from the fun of it all, wouldn't it? There we go. So we've got that. What's the next thing we're going to do on the show? We're 25 minutes in. That's amazing. The CNC. Let's have a look around my spoil board. I'm going to change the cameras to out there. So I'm coming out here into where the CNC is. Okay, get down here. Now this might be boring for a lot of people, but I have to try and cater to as many people as I can. So this is a CNC part. What I've got here is the spoil board on my CNC. When I first built the machine, I thought I had to restrict the size of the board to 8 feet by 4 feet or 24 by 1200 in metric. It didn't even enter into my head that I'm a carpenter and I should have joined some extra pieces onto a board, which was easy. So I dominoed this end on. Now this end comes past the outside and it's on purpose to protect the sensor. This is the Y negative sensor, so as the gantry comes back down, when the metal comes within 3 or 4 millimeters, it's very precise, whatever the distance is, it stops the stepper motor traveling. There's a slave on the other side, does the same thing. It's all, part of squaring the machine up is adjusting the distance these sensors are out from along the path of the Y-axis. Same thing with the X-axis and the Z-axis. There's one of these sensors on each one. Well, actually, there's a positive and a negative. 2 on this side, 2 on the main, and 1 on the slave. Now, if I want to work on the spoil board and do some different things, I need to be able to reference off exactly the same point. Now, to do that, I think I had probably another bath and a port, but eventually I came up with this idea, and that was to create a pseudo corner on the spoil board because I had no corner here to be able to reference off. So I got a square and I sat it down here. I worked out the distances for my hard stops on the travel on the gantry and the spindle. And I made sure I was just inside those. Now the other thing is I found with this, when I was doing that, the spindle or the whole assembly wants to go around about 1/2 inch past where you tell it to start. So it goes back and around before it wants to do its come down and start cutting. So a little bit of mucking around there, but finally I worked it out where I could get the maximum distance out on this fake corner, pretend corner. And away we went from there. So I used a 1/4 inch cutter in a router or a trimmer and zapped around. Got that, made that recess for this. Now this guy here is a lip around the bottom of the sensor for it to reference correctly onto that corner or onto the corner of a sheet. This area here is the surface of the spoil board or the job that I'm working on. And this area here is the touch plate if I want to turn it upside down without having any reference point, just to get a Z axis. This side is if I want to get Z, X and Y, and I would pop that down there like so. And you can see, it's I was pretty happy with myself getting that one done. Now, how does this work? It's got a brass spring-loaded plate in here. This is spring-loaded, just in very heavy spring, just in case you do something like Dave did and didn't have this guy actually on the cutter or on the chuck of the spindle. And it keeps on wanting to keep on going through, and you have to madly quickly rush to the emergency stop, and that will stop it. I didn't stop it in time one time, and hence you can see this repair work that I've done on the outside. Anyway, it's all good. It works beautifully now. So this thing is a contact. It works on electrical contact, where when the spindle comes down and finally touches, this is connected to magnetically to the spindle, and it completes a circuit, an electrical circuit. And the coordinates are already plugged in to the machine. It knows where, or into the software. It knows the height from here to that area there. And likewise, it knows the distance from here to there. So from this, the inside of this to the far side of that one. So as the cutter's traveling across, you have to actually rotate the flutes so that it's 12 o'clock this way, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and the flute will touch that. Now, why does that happen? Well, because it's going to tell the spindle where the dead center of the cutter is, or it's going to tell the control box. So when you've created a file to use on the machine, it's going to know exactly where to go off this reference corner. So that's pretty handy. What else was I going to say? On the board, now why do I need that there on the spoil board? People say, well, why do you need that on the spoil board? Obviously you're going to reference off the top of a job rather than off the spoil board. Sometimes I want to work on the spoil board. Now I put this grid here. Don't know if you can see all these holes. I might raise the camera up a little bit. So if I raise that up to there and tip it down a little and stay down here. All right, so you see all these holes here. I use these in conjunction with the dogs, the plastic dogs that John makes for me from Yellow Box Shed. I would push an item up against this corner. Let's get rid of this. Oh, also, this lives on a piece of rubber underneath the machine, so it doesn't contact anything. I don't want it to send, I don't know if it would, but I don't want to risk anything when you've got this machine running. It's enough to have Muggins here running the thing without having something else come in and try and stuff it up. So these holes, as I say, that board that I've just finished putting a finish on, doesn't sound right, that I've just finished oiling, will go into here, and I need to clamp it this direction as well as this direction. Now that side's fine. I've already got holes over there that will do it. But I need more holes here, 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 along this side to make up, because the board's 600 wide. When I've got those holes in, the 20mm diameter holes, and I want to keep this regular pattern at 96mm centers, hence my reference point here. So I can create this pattern again in the software and know in Aspire, know exactly where this hole is in relation to that corner. And so I can continue this regular pattern down here. I'm going to miss, the reason I've missed here is because underneath there is a piece of 4080, which is the subframe of the table that the spoil board's mounted to. One of the questions that I've had was, is it best to have clamps coming up under the table and lock the job down onto a spoil board, or you can see I've got a regular pattern here and I've got another way of holding things down flat. But with a CNC machine, you're not riding on the surface of the thing you're cutting. So when you're routing a dado or a rebate in a piece of timber, you know if you want that rebate or dado to be 2 millimeters deep, it will always be 2 millimeters deep because the sole of, or the base plate of the trimmer or router is riding on the timber. With the CNC, the gantry is above. So the gantry is running on these linear rails either side on linear bearings, and also across the top on itself as well. So it's not actually referencing off the top of the surface of the timber. If it's undulating at all, the thing's going to go straight. So if there's a slight bow in the board that I'm working on, the dado will go from 2 millimeters possibly to 4 millimeters deep as the CNC is running over, the spindle is running over the top. And that would be ugly because you want it to be accurate. So you must get things as flat as possible on this bed, spoil board, whatever you want to call it. Now, I don't have a vacuum hold down system because that's how the big boys do it. They have a vacuum system which sucks the things down dead flat. They don't move. You don't need any of this stuff. They have machines, just drop panels on the computer-driven machines, just drop the things, Skynet, drop the things straight there, and the machine comes in, sucks it down, and off it goes. So I have to think of alternative ways. Now, as I say, a lot of people use clamps to come up underneath. One of the things I want to experiment is trying to get rid of vibration from cutting. And sound comes from the actual cutting and also vibration in the bed. Now, the bed is rock solid, but as the cutter is cutting, it will create a vibration. I want to pack in between each of these 4080s with sponge rubber, dense sponge rubber. And I don't want to take it out again. So I don't want to have to put my hands underneath the spoil board to put clamps in and all that kind of mucking around. I have seen people put slots in their spoil board, like a dovetail, and I've seen people put T-track in their spoil boards as well. Now, I may end up doing something like that in a secondary spoil board that sits on top, but I still need to lock it down. And so I'm thinking at the moment of a few different ways of doing all of that. One way that I thought of with this particular job is to drill 2 holes that are actually part of the regular pattern in my bench in the middle, and drill it so that it goes right the way through the board and through the spoil board. Now, back up for a second. Through the board, just 2 of them, in strategically placed. And if there's a hump, put that in the center so the hump is up. Put a captured nut in the spoil board and then pull the flat down perfectly. Now, I did make comment during the week that we're using a safe Z of 10 millimeters, and I had to increase that up to 15 because I had a little bit of an accident where the cutter went straight over the top of one of my hold down clamps. Luckily, they were 3D printed, so it didn't worry anything. But it gave me the heads up, and I was thinking, these are things I should be aware of. All right, I think that's probably enough on the spoil board. As I say, what I did was I increased the size across the width as well and the length. And main thing with these safety things on the edge here, so the sensor was never bumped. And this corner, this was a huge thing for me. It really has made a difference to getting a reference again directly off the spoil board. Okay, I'm going to head back in to the other room. We'll keep on going and possibly have a look at some, we already covered the oil. I forget what the other thing is. Anyway, I'll go and then we'll have a look. And over. There we go. Now, I'm hoping that the video that was happening over there wasn't steppy. When I was glancing over this way a little bit, it seemed to be a bit jumpy, but in the recording, it might all be good. We'll see what happens. What's the next thing I was going to talk about? Where's my sheet of paper? There it is. 33 degrees outside, 25 in here. No air conditioning turned on. It's just well insulated. When I insulated that garage door, it made a huge difference to the comfort factor in here. Massive. This is looking fantastic. I'll put CarlCam on again so you can have a quick look down and see how it's drying. Now remember, when I first did it, the shine off this was unbelievable. Now, there was a huge shine point here, and there was a huge shine point there, basically from the lights directly above. Now it's just looking really, really nice. That'll be lovely. Okay, we're back to this one, and there. I'll read what's happening next. The solar panels took a few weeks on. How are they doing? So we've got around about 25 minutes left in the show. Oh, I better put the lid back on here. Now, there's something else I'm going to say. Those rags, that's how you'd probably end up leaving. You'd probably throw them on something, and that is a fire waiting to happen. I'm going to throw them in the water now. Okay, they're in that pot that's got a lid in it. It's steel, and it's half full of water. So that's now no risk. All right, the rest of it, where are we? Move a couple of things, David. Yeah, this week's been pretty amazing. As I said, I sold out of all my stock down at the Canberra Timber Tools and Artisans show, and I've been madly producing benches this week to get them posted out the door, and people are picking up as well. And I need to make some stock. All right, solar panels a few weeks on. Yeah, this is good. You may be curious, and let me see if I can get this up there. Is it that one? Okay, so here's a few of the panels, and you can see in the background how close the bushfire got to us. And I have ash on the panels that's kind of, from moisture in the air at night time, it's kind of sticking on. Does anyone have a good and safe way of cleaning those panels so that they produce to their optimum performance? Leave a comment. Leave a comment. I was thinking about a very, very, very soft broom, and maybe throw some water on the panel, and then a very soft broom, and then throw some more water on to rinse it off. I tried just hosing them, and it was okay, but then when it all dried, it's like when you wash a car. If you don't chamois it off after, you're going to have spots everywhere. Maybe a chamois, maybe, but I can't. The thing is, they're too far away for me to be able to get to them. Some of them are very close to the edge as well of the roof, and I really don't want to expose myself to danger like that. All right, going to show you this. Now, whilst that's up there, I'm also going to try and find that picture. Give me a second. I'm doing something on my machine there and there. Now you should be seeing a spreadsheet that's got A through to N, and November 1st down to November 21. The first column is an orange column, and it's the generation, how much the new panels have generated per day in kilowatt hours. Now the panels that I've got have got an app as well, so I can see what each panel does, how many amps it's producing, how many watts it's producing, if it's actually producing at all or not. Each panel has what's called an optimizer behind it, and then it goes off to an inverter. There's a couple of inverters on the place. We have one set of panels on one building, another set of panels on another building, and I've got a very, very old set from 10 years ago on the house, and you'll see those two yellow columns relate to that. But the orange column is interesting. You can see each day that there's good production, and some days there's rubbish production, and it goes back up and down. If you go across to HI, to the I column, where it's blue, you can see I'm started putting down the weather conditions. It took me a little while to realize what to throw in. And that can relate to how much has been generated. You'll see there's a few days there, like Friday the 8th, drops down to Saturday the 9th, and the next couple of days. You can see over in the blue column again, the studio panels were turned off, studio panels were turned off on that day around about 4:30 in the afternoon. That's when the fires really started to be a problem here. The Rural Fire Service turned them off, but they didn't know that there was panels on the building I'm in at the moment. Didn't turn those ones off. So we were generating at basically half power. What else have we got there? You can see that on the house, I started doing panel reads. Now those reads, I do between 6 and 8 p.m. I do a read on everything that's happened at that time. Each building has got a meter in it that tells me how much is being consumed by that particular building. And it's a progressive score. It's not just something that says, okay, today you've used 20 kilowatt hours. It's going to say, right, it was 1823, and then the next day it was 1843 or whatever. So you get the idea of what's happening there. It's a progressive read. So on the house, I started reading that around Tuesday the 12th. I thought it might be an idea to throw that into this sums to see if it's still doing any good. And it surprised me. I was quite pleasantly surprised that I'm getting an average of around 8 kilowatt hours per day off that 2 kilowatt system. So in total, we've got 14.2 kilowatts being produced. That's the maximum capacity, depending on the environmental situation, what's happening with the sun, whether it's raining, whether it's smoky, and all of these things, temperature, everything comes into it. So you'll never get 14.2 coming off it. It's just not going to happen. It's a bit of a pipe dream. Normally around about 75% to 80% would be a good day. So then you can see the next column F, if you're still watching, you may have fallen asleep by now, is I'm reading my smart meter, how much is going out how much is coming from the grid. So at night time, or when the sun's gone, we're still using power, and we're pulling power in, and that cost me 26 cents per kilowatt hour. And you can see down the bottom the totals as well. You can see that we've generated 1,237, which is 1.237 megawatt hours in this 3-week period. And the import, we brought in nearly 400 kilowatt hours. And that would have cost me $102 at that price. And then moving along, we go to the export, and the smart meter also tells me how much is going out. And you can see that I've exported nearly 900 kilowatt hours, and I get a credit of 11.6 cents per kilowatt hour going out. And basically, I've got a credit of $104.28. Now you'll say, Dave, how come the next column is showing $18.32 as the how much I owe the retailer? Well, it costs 96 cents a day flagfall to have the power connected to the grid. It's their service fee. So when you jump in a cab, a taxi cab, the first thing that happens is flagfall is whatever it is, and then his meter starts reading the miles or the kilometers that you're traveling. So that, I didn't incorporate that with the rest of it, but it is incorporated in column M. So you can see last year for the same period, my bill was averaged out to $20.44 per day. I have said that I use a lot of electricity here. So anything less than that is savings per day, more than $20.44 is great, really, really good. But even on my worst day there, which I think is the second one from the bottom, Wednesday the 20th, we only saved $14.84. But look, for the 3 weeks after putting the panels in, not the cost of the panels involved, but after putting the panels in, we've saved $410.92. So that's how much I would have paid on that previous bill for the same period of time last year before we put this next lot of panels on. So only $18.32. Now obviously I'll jump out of there. You're probably sick and tired of looking at all of that now. And out of that, come back to me again. So where was I? I was busy pushing the buttons on the computer. There's chances, obviously, with the bushfires. We were risking that investment, which was substantial, but the house is insured, so that's okay. That's one of the reasons why I kept going with it. But for 25 years, expected life of these panels. Now remember, the ones on the house are 10 years old, approximately, and they're punching out around about, in the middle of the day, 75% of what their full capacity was. Now they may have started off at around 80% of their full. So their degradation isn't bad. It's pretty good. I'm very happy with it. So if I can get 25 years out of these last lot of panels that I've just put in, God willing that I'm still alive, in comparison to what I paid last year, after I'd paid everything off, the savings are substantial. The projected over that, if everything stays constant, like the cost of electricity and everything, but it's going to rise. If everything stays constant, it will save me $100,000 over that period. That, to me, is a whole lot better an investment rather than putting the money in the bank. You know, if I had the money sitting in the bank. I'm at that age where I don't have as many demands on the purse strings. Money was in the bank, leave it there, get 1%, or put the panels up. I did the panels. And you can see on that spreadsheet, I think it's going to pay off quite well. Anyway, the reason I talk about this is a lot of people that I speak to, as soon as I mention solar panels, except for Vicky, who says, no, I don't want to hear about it. A lot of people I speak to, they say, yeah, Dave, you know what, I've just done that, or I'm thinking about it, because it's a big cost, and people are concerned about costs. The cost of electricity in Australia is huge. What's the next thing we're going to have a look at? We're just about done. Look, it's find my glasses again. We've got 15 minutes left. Where are we? Scissors. I was going to sharpen some scissors. That's not even listed on here. This is beautiful. I'm going to pick this up and move it over there. If I pick it up from underneath, I should be okay. Just about dry. They say 5 hours between coats. That's going to be really, really nice. I love it. So they say 5 hours between coats, and then using it as a bench top, if you use it in a kitchen, that stuff, which is basically, I'm sure it's just basically linseed oil. I may be wrong, but it says a good blend of oil, so I can't see how linseed oil would be left out of it. Okay, so for a kitchen benchtop, I think they recommend leave it for about 3 days before you start getting it wet. Read the instructions, but the main thing with these things that are exothermic, put them in a thing of water or open them up, spread them out to dry on the grass. Probably not a good idea during bushfire periods. That's why I've got it in the water at the moment. I don't really want it outside. It's still 33 outside, which is hot. Let me have a look. I'm going to do a quick conversion. That's 91C. Oh, sorry, 91C. I've been boiled like a lobster. That's 91 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, here's another thing. You're probably going to start saying, Dave, you're waffling too much now. The thing with the stream when it was live, and I'd make a stupid comment. Like I think the other week I said, and of course the white keys on a piano are ebony. Well, if you're having a conversation with someone one-to-one and they're right in front of you, they would pull you up on that straight away. So, Dave, don't you mean the black keys are ebony? And you say, oh yeah, of course. And then you keep on the conversation. Well, I don't get that feedback until I get a comment, and we're on a delay. With the live show, it was a delay, so it might be about a minute. And by that time, I've moved on to another subject. And someone could make a comment like saying, Dave, it was black keys are ebony and white keys are ivory. And I would stand back and say, well, of course they are, because I didn't get that prompt quick enough. Not the person's typing's fault, it's just the way that the show was running. All right, scissors. I have just sharpened these scissors here. These things, man, couldn't cut a wet paper bag. So what I did was I got the diamond stones and I just used the fine, I think. No, tell a lie, I used the coarse. It's coarse on this side. A little bit of water. And I'm just wondering whether I should go to Carl Cam or not. Possibly not. The same as a chisel. Just think of a pair of scissors the same as a chisel. Except with scissors, I don't put the stone down. I use the stone in my hand. Support the blade as much as you can. I don't know if you can see that. If I wanted to, I could put it down and run the scissors over it, but I just find it easier doing it this way. Now that I've said that, I'm all over the place. And then here, to do the angled, the bevel, because that's all it is, a couple of passes, and you'll see a shiny spot developing. I don't know if you can see that or not. And that'll let you know whether or not you've got the angle right. Ah, that's better. I can see the shine coming over. The shine is now, I don't know if you'll see it, but the shine is now starting to come to the edge. And I can feel it as well. It's quite good. All right, I'm going to do the other one, and that's almost done. Coarse on that side. I don't want to do the extra coarse, because that would just be overkill on a pair of scissors. Now you've got to remember also, these scissors, I was going to throw them out. I thought, we get too accustomed to being a consumer and just throwing things away. That's why I like to be self-sufficient with the shed. I'm putting some more water on. And fine, not extra fine. And I can look after this stuff myself and not worry. You know, why would... If it works, it works. And these will be fine. I'm going to go over to the extra fine now. Where are we? Extra fine is this side. Now it's not as accurate as a micro bevel. You're going to have people that are going to say, you've got to use a slow speed Waterstone to do these. Yeah. I find this works just fine. Let's see if they cut. Because these things couldn't cut anything before. They go fine. Beautiful. There you go. Now that's a pair of scissors that ordinarily I would have thrown out. Now why were they blunt? I gotta tell you, I'm going to dive on Vicky. She cut some sandpaper with it. Scissors don't like cutting sandpaper. Not a good idea. Anyway, so I thought, oh, well, their stuff, throw them in the bin. You wouldn't be worthwhile sharpening them. But what'd that take me? 7 minutes. And they're sharp again. Throw it in here and I can use them straight away. What else? What else? Pop that back. I think that's going to be about it. Let me see. Oh, John's given me a few of these to give away. So what I might do is I might do a little competition as well and put it in the description box at the bottom. And you know, it's going to be expensive for me to post them around the world. So I'm going to limit this one to Australia as well. I think you can't see them down there, can you? There we go. These things are a scraper. Now they've got a carbide blade in the end, mounted on a 3D print, yellow box shed. You've got 4 sides on them, so you can undo that screw at the end, rotate it. And it's basically for scraping paint. Don't get them near a piece of glass because they are carbide and they will score the glass. And the glass will crack and break. So you need to keep them away a little bit, but for all other sorts of things, for cleaning up old paint and what have you, these are great. Great. I'll do that little competition. I'll do 3 of them this week. And just send in if you want. You want one, I'll put in a little parcel and pop it off to you. If you win. Oh, sorry, if Rafflecopter selects you. There we go. 5 minutes to go, and you can see that I am starting to fade. What else do I want? What else do I want? I want you to send me some pictures in, because this is the time now. I would be throwing up some pictures of viewers, workshops, and projects that they're doing. So if you've got some projects and your workshop that you're getting quite proud of, send them in to me at davestantonfans@gmail.com. Send some photos into me and a little bit of a story about it, and I shall pop them up on the show for everyone to have a look as well. Because people get ideas. It doesn't matter if you feel that it's not worth it. Send them in. The reason being, people will glean ideas, and let them be the judge. Don't you make the decision for them. All right, guys, we're going to finish a minute or two early. Thank you very much for watching, and I will go over here and have a look at this one, that one, and that one. So look after yourselves, be nice to each other, and I shall see you next week. Bye.